This is Eric Anderton, and you're listening to Construction Genius, a leadership masterclass. Thomas Edison said that genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. If you're a construction leader, you know all about the perspiration, and this show is all about the 1% inspiration that you can add to your hard work to help you to improve your leadership. Welcome to Construction Genius, and today we are starting a new series on AI for construction companies. And I want to be clear right up front, this is not going to be a tech seminar. We're not here to chase shiny objects. We're not here to worship the robots. And we're not here to pretend AI is going to magically fix a poorly run company. We are here to answer a simple question. How can construction companies use AI to save time, communicate better, reduce confusion, and get real work done? And to help me with that, I'm joined by Dylan Davis. Dylan is my collaborator on the Construction Genius GPT course, where we help construction professionals use AI on real work, emails, meeting notes, RFIs, daily reports, scope notes, change order drafts, the stuff that actually shows up during the week. Dylan brings deep AI expertise to the table, and I bring the construction translation. So when Dylan explains what AI can do, I'm going to make sure we keep it real and focused on the job site, the office, the project team, the owner, the subs, and the money. So this first episode is AI 101. What is AI? What is it good at? Where is it risky? And how can a contractor start using it this week without being reckless? Dylan, welcome to Construction Genius.
Eric, I'm very happy to be here.
I tell you, man, we're going to have an awesome time. Okay, so let's dive right in. When we say AI, what are we actually talking about in plain English?
Simply put, AI is, well, the term AI represents artificial intelligence. And what's happening in the back end isn't necessarily needed to understand the information behind there. But AI is simply a model behind the scenes that when asked a question, predicts what the next answer should be based on what the task is. So it's basically a predicting machine. So when I say the brown fox jumped over and stop, the AI is likely going to know how to fill that in. And that simple thing of being able to predict the next token or word, and we'll maybe talk about that later, but predict the next word, that amplifies to so many different things. So now it can write code, it can write reports, it can do analysis, it can write poetry, it can do all these things based off of that small little component of being able to predict the next word that someone's seeking to get a response on.
And when we're talking about AI models and we're talking about prediction machines, we're talking about what people call large language models. Is that correct?
That's correct. That is a form of AI. It's a branch of AI.
Yeah. And so that would include things like Gemini, ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, etc. Is that correct?
Right. Those are all different models, so different AIs that you can talk to based on different companies that have built them.
Okay. So let's say I'm a contractor, and obviously AI has been around now, well, for a long time, but in the public consciousness, let's say 3 years. And maybe some of my guys are using it, maybe they're not, maybe I started to dabble in it. But what mindset should the owner of a construction company have when they're just getting started using these large language models, these different AI engines?
So I'd say there's a few mindsets or perspectives to take. The first one is to start small and start simple. Don't try to boil the ocean. Oftentimes when I work with people, they'll come to me and say, hey, I want to automate all of finance.
Yeah.
That's a lot. They're trying to do too much at once. So instead, when you want to use AI, start with a simple task. I want this AI to write this email more effectively.
Yep.
I want this AI to read this report and give me a quick summary. Something small. And then over time, as you build up your abilities of using the tools and you start to figure out what they can and can't do, then you can add complexity later. So that's probably one of the biggest things is start small and start simple. Another one is if you aren't sure what to do or how to do something, just ask AI. There's always, almost always ask AI.
I mean, what do you mean by ask AI?
So if somebody says, oh, how do I change a model in ChatGPT? Or what is a project? How do I use a project in ChatGPT? What's the difference between a custom GPT and a GPT project? All these things around using these tools or how to use them. So how do I use AI for finance? How do I use GPT for finance? All these questions can be easily answered through AI because it's obviously it's a worldly model and it can research things as well. So if there's any confusion that you have, I would recommend starting just asking AI like you would ask a friend. You don't have to speak to it in any special language. Just talk to it like you talk to me or anybody else, and then it'll likely give you a good response.
And so that's something that's changed as the models have become more sophisticated. It seems like in a certain way, the prompting of the models is becoming more natural and less sort of, codey, or, you know what I mean?
I was just actually having a conversation about this right before this conversation. And with the newest models, so there's a new model out from Claude called Fable 5.
Yeah.
And there are other models that have come out recently, and there probably will be more that come out soon. And with these models in the past, when you would prompt an AI or initiate a conversation with one, you'd have to give it a persona. You'd say, you are an expert, whatever. And here are the 5 steps I need you to follow. You'd have to do all these things. But now, really, these models are so intelligent that all you need to do is tell it what you want. I want you to achieve X, and you need to meet my standards and whatever those are. And then it'll figure out the rest. So it's strange to say, but I think the importance of very specific prompting is becoming less and less of a value add for initiating these models.
It's interesting that Claude would call their new model Fable. And one of the main concerns that people have about using models is the accuracy or the veracity of the information that it spits out or gives you. That leads me to my next question. What is AI naturally good at, and where does it get risky?
So anytime that you want the AI to give you an identical answer every single time, so if you want to do 1 + 1 = 2 every single time, there's a high chance that won't happen. And reason being is that AI in itself is chaotic in its responses. So if I tell it to write me a paragraph about apples, and I give it to the same exact model, so I use GPT 5.5 inside of ChatGPT, and I then do a new conversation, and maybe I do 3, and I'll give it the same exact prompt. Nothing has changed. Same prompt, same model, same tool, everything. The paragraph it gives back to me will be different each time. Not massively different, but slightly different. And that's because of how these models operate and how they actually function. So if you have to do anything that needs to be perfectly the same every single time, so if you're processing a bunch of data and it needs to be processed in a very specific way, or if you need to transform a paragraph into a sentence every single time the same way, whatever it is, I wouldn't rely on AI for that. What you could do is you could have AI write code for you to then do that. That's the big difference for deterministic things. So making sure it's the same in, same out. That's the bad area. What they're good at is many generative tasks. So if I need to generate a report, if I need to do some sort of analysis on some data and have an AI come up with some patterns that it spotted through a series of Excel sheets or anomalies that I found in a series of Excel sheets, it's very good at doing those types of tasks. Yeah, so there's many things it's good at. It's kind of hard to pinpoint one.
Where does AI fit in everyday construction work?
So this is something we've done quite a lot, where say you have to draft an RFP for a project. AI is very good at doing that. It can take in whatever information it needs to draft the RFP, and it can match your style as well. So if you have a very specific structure and tone and way that you like to write RFPs for a project, it can do that for you. If you need the AI to look at maybe a floor plan or whatever type of PDF or document that's in preparation for either responding to a project or a customer or whatever else, it can read that information, give you a response, and likely respond in the way you would like it to.
Like drafting change orders has been something that's been very effective.
Yeah. And what are some that come to your mind? Because you and I have done a lot of this stuff together.
So you and I we've worked with a number of different contractors, helping them with both the understanding and the implementation of AI. As you reflect back on that, where does AI fit in everyday construction work? I know one that pops into my mind right off the top of my head is an RFI.
Yeah, so I mean that's a great one where you would have a series of inputs to draft an RFI. And the AI can simply take those, read them, and then write it for you in the structure that you would like it to, the tone you would like it to. Everything can be the same as if you wrote it yourself. We just have to train the AI to do that effectively. Another good one that came to mind is estimating. So estimating the cost of a project based off of previous projects. So if you feed the AI the last 50 projects you've done in relation to this type of construction, it can read all of that. And then when a new one comes up, it can give you a really close prediction of how much this project will cost based off of previous projects.
And with the estimating one, it's very important. And it goes back to something you said earlier. When you're starting to use AI, not only use it on a simple task, which is it's a great idea, use it on tasks that you have a lot of expert knowledge in. So for instance, if you're going to use it to help you with estimating and you have deep knowledge in estimating and you're using it simply as a means of becoming more efficient at it, with your deep knowledge, you'll be able to analyze the output it gives you as a result of the input you've given it, and quickly be able to see areas where perhaps it may be off or where it's more accurate.
And what about you? What are some use cases that come to your mind?
I think one of the most effective ones is simple communication on a daily basis. And I know one thing that contractors are doing all the time is they're in meetings. And whether it's via Zoom or live, you can get transcripts of these meetings and use the transcripts in very powerful ways to identify lines of communication, lines of responsibility, who's doing what by when. And you can use that to help you keep a good record of what's going on the projects in a way that's much more efficient than someone taking notes as we've done previously and then summarizing those notes. So I think meeting summaries is one of the key ways that you can use AI in a tremendously powerful way.
Yeah, that's a really important one.
It's interesting, right? So let's say we are working with that meeting transcript, which is typically a pretty messy transcript because there's a lot of crosstalk and issues being brought up. How would you use an AI model like Claude or GPT, ChatGPT, to clean that transcript up and make it more usable?
So it's the interesting part of the question is that with these models, you actually don't need to. And that's kind of the beauty of it. You can feed a very messy transcript into an AI, and it'll interpret into it and understand exactly what is needed based on the ask you've provided.
Yep.
And this kind of goes to a point that you and I talk a lot about within our sessions, is the importance of dictation and the importance of not typing, but talking.
Yep.
And that correlates directly to meeting transcripts. So when you interact with an AI, you probably should talk to it via dictation, where you're converting speech into text. And with transcripts, you don't necessarily need to really do anything to clean it up. You can just pass it to the AI, tell it what you want to do with the transcript, either write a summary, do some sort of analysis, give you a decision on something, whatever it is, and it'll be able to pull that out effectively.
And that's very interesting too. I think one way that I've thought about interacting with a large language model is to think of yourself as a large language model.
Yeah.
And each one of us, to one degree or another, have a great deal of information or expertise that can be tapped when we are prompted correctly, so to speak. And I think dictation into the model is one of the best ways for you to tap your expertise, is to simply talk into the model exactly what you want it to do. And then as you're talking into the model, ask the model itself to ask you questions about what you're dictating, to pull out insights that you perhaps wouldn't have thought about consciously, even though you may be communicating them in some way subconsciously through what you're dictating.
Yeah, and that's really good. It's I think there's one thing you and I talked about with a lot of the people is when you talk to an AI, talk to it as if you're teaching a new employee.
Yeah.
Instead of thinking about it as a robot or anything like that, think about it as a new employee.
Yeah, and that's really good. So it's a new employee who is perhaps intelligent and capable, but not conversant with your specific applications, your specific situations. And so the more information or context that you give the engine, give the AI, the more effective the AI is going to be for you. So with that in mind, Dylan, what are some ways that I can give context to the engine so that it becomes more effective in doing the tasks that I'm asking it to do?
Yeah, so actually to that point, before I answer it, I do want to emphasize it, like the importance of context.
Yeah.
So there are 3 levers any company can pull to separate themselves from their competitors when it comes to AI. And two of those levers have disappeared. Now you only have one. And reason being is those two levers are the model choice, and choosing the model is important, but everybody has access to the model now. Everybody can pay for access. The other one is the prompt. Like I mentioned earlier, the prompt is becoming less and less important because of the AI's intelligence. And the final thing is context. That is the key lever that separates you from everybody else. And sharing the right context at the right time to an AI makes your AI perform in a way that could outpace your competitors in whatever task you're doing. So it's very important. So to context, to share context with AI, there's different ways you could do it. So you could do it through dictation, simply just communicating your context. In a conversation, in a thread, you could drop in a bunch of files. So if there are certain files you think the AI should have access to, you can share those files with the AI. It'll read those, understand the context, and then do the task. You can also store those files so the AI can reference them on an ongoing basis. And that's when it comes into a thing called a GPT project. So inside of ChatGPT or even in Claude, it's a Claude project. It's basically a dedicated AI to a given task. And that dedicated AI has access to files. So you can drop those files in. And every time you interact with the AI, it's always going to reference those to then do that task for you. So that's additional context you can share. And those are like a few of the primary ways. There's other ways to kind of share context, but those are kind of the big ones.
And what's a particular framework that I can use? So this idea of dictation is great, and I get it. And by the way, what we mean by that, just to be very clear, is you can get like the ChatGPT app on your phone or the Claude app. You can get it on desktop, and you can just start to speak into the app, and it will transcribe it brilliantly. But in order to get the most out of what I say, I should have a framework for helping to bring out that context from me. And what's a framework that you like to use with folks to help them to really pinpoint and make more accurate the information that you're giving to the model?
Okay, I see where you're going. The what, why, how framework.
There we go. The what, why, how framework. Tell me about the what, why, how framework.
Yeah, so these are 3 questions you want to try to always answer anytime you ask an AI to do anything. And the 3 questions are what, why, how. So the first one is, what exactly do you want the AI to do? And you want to be specific not just what you want it to do, but also the criteria of what good is.
Right.
So at the very end of this, can the AI grade itself based off of what it gave you?
Yeah.
And those criteria it grades itself on should be binary. So yes, no, pass, fail. And by making those criteria binary, it can effectively grade itself easier. So that's the first one, is what? What do you want to do, and how are you grading yourself? The next one's why. And this is around the intent. So why are we doing this in the first place? And the reason you want to answer the why is oftentimes when you explain the what, you tend to sometimes forget to share stuff. So if you forget to share things and you explain the why, the AI can fill the gaps for you effectively. And then the last one's the how. So these are the constraints. This really comes down to, I want paragraphs instead of bullets. I want the button to be green instead of blue. I want a PowerPoint instead of a PDF. These are the different constraints we put around the AI on what we want it to give us back. So it's just the what, why, how.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And when you're doing the what, you're stating what you want. Is it a good idea to state what you don't want as well?
It used to be. So if you would ask me that question 6 months ago, I would have said yes. But now that we have new models and more intelligent models, using negating terms like never do this, don't do that, not this, that tends to redirect the AI in a bad way. So instead, you want to use prescriptive terms. So you want to say, I want this, I want that, do it in this way. And by doing that, you increase the probability that the AI doesn't go down the path you want it to.
Okay. And as you're using this what, why, how model, so let's say you take a first pass at it and you describe what you're wanting and why you're wanting it and how you want the AI to give you the output. And then you're not happy with what you get. What should you do at that point?
Iterate. So there's actually a quote from a client that I work with, and I really like it. So I'm going to repurpose it here. It's that when you interact with an AI, the first response that you get back from the AI is where things start, not finish. This is the beginning, not the end. And so if you get an output from an AI you're not happy with, you need to give it feedback. You need to iterate back and forth. And maybe you'll go back and forth 5 or 6, 7, 10 times. Yep. And at the end of it, you finally get the output you're happy with. And then from there, if you're happy with that output, and you're like, okay, I want to keep doing this specific thing over and over, and I want it to do it like this, you can simply tell the AI, based off of this entire conversation, I want you to turn this into a prompt for me that solidifies this entire process. So another AI can do it for me on a recurring basis.
So that example that you're sharing the client, what field are they in?
So they are a contractor for the government, actually. So not construction, but kind of like consultative contracting.
Yep. And then what specifically were they looking for there? What was the example he was using when he was telling you about that?
So that actually came from him teaching his employees. So he's trying to propagate the usage of AI throughout the company. And the purpose of that quote was stating that when an AI gives you a bad output, first off, don't blame the AI, blame yourself.
Yes.
And then second off, realize that it's not going to likely do the exact thing you wanted to do the first try. So you need to accept the fact that when it responds to you, this is the beginning, not the end. You're starting, not finishing.
Okay. And I think this is one of the things that people really need to keep in mind with AI is that particularly when you're setting up something new, you have to go through this iterative process to get to something useful and something repeatable. And if you're not willing for that process, then it's unlikely that AI is going to be effective for you. You're going to be one of those folks who's just kind of throw up their hands and say, this is hype, and walk away. Do you think I'm being accurate there, Dylan?
Yeah. And the issue with that perspective and that mindset is that you're actually shooting yourself in the foot by kind of saying that, oh, it's not there yet. It's not useful for me. But when you have 10 other competitors that have accepted the fact that it is useful and they're leveraging it, and you postpone for another year, that's a year you'll never get back.
Yeah. And this really speaks to another area that you have to get comfortable with, and that is actually spending time with the tools. And so regardless of whether or not you choose ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, some combination of those, or whether you have AI already baked into software systems that you're using, like many of the construction software companies are doing, you have to get comfortable with the usage of it and the logic of it. How much time do you typically recommend to your clients that they should be taking on a regular basis, getting to know these models?
So, I mean, to start, probably like an hour a day or so.
Yeah.
In all reality, after you've gotten used to it, I would expect 80% of your day. There always has to be an AI open at all times. You should have a tab open on your browser or something like that, where anytime you're doing a task, you're asking yourself, can AI assist and or do this for me?
Yes.
And eventually it'll get to the point where you have AI on all the time. And this is a concept that's kind of a lot of researchers are pontificating on, is ambient AI. So an AI that's always on, ever present, like Jarvis from Iron Man.
Right.
I mean, that's the end goal. So, I mean, right now, sure, you do an hour a day, but as you get more advanced with these tools, you should always have a tab open. You should always be asking yourself, can AI do this for me, or can it augment the process?
Yeah. And so it's really interesting because if you begin to think of AI, not just as a tool, and I don't want to overstate this, but as a person in a certain way, in the sense that you have a resource that you can turn to. And in the same way that you might be training up an employee, and as they learn the context of your business, you're delegating more and more information to them, more and more responsibility. Think of AI in that sense. So think about how you might hire a project engineer out of college, and they may have a shiny degree, but they're clueless in terms of how to really run a construction project, but they're not stupid. They may be clueless, but they are intelligent. And all they need is some time in the seat to develop that understanding. And as they've been a project engineer for a few years and maybe even have gone through different parts of your business, I know many of my clients, they'll start someone out with one superintendent or with one project manager on one type of work, and then move them to another type of work, even other parts of the business, such as estimating, or they may even put them in business development for a while just to give them a full view of their business. Think of AI like that project engineer, where over time you give them a full view of your business, and then you can then promote them to project manager, so to speak, and from project manager to project executive. And over time, these AIs become way more useful as, number one, you become more comfortable using them, and number two, they get a greater understanding through the information that you're sharing with them of the context of your business and how it can help you to be more effective in the way that you run your company.
Well said.
So let's think a little bit about the models right now, because I know all the training that we've done with our clients in the Construction Genius cohort is using ChatGPT, and we've intentionally limited it to that just so that we don't overwhelm people with the models. Having said that, why would someone use one model over another? And can you think of some use cases where you're thinking, I'm going to use Gemini right here, but I might use Claude over here? What are your thoughts on that, Dylan?
It's interesting. The answer to this question would vary by week. So it really depends on if there's a new model out or not and its capabilities. So at this point in time, based on the question, I would probably use Claude for many of my writing tasks. So if I'm doing any type of writing, Claude tends to be better at writing and sounding more human. The other one for, I'd say, extracting information from PDFs, Claude is actually getting much better at this. If cost matters and you're processing many PDFs, so maybe you have to process 100 PDFs a day, Gemini tends to be very good at looking at PDFs, extracting information from them, and doing it at a cheaper cost. If I want to do some form of data analysis across many Excel sheets, I would say GPT 5.5 as well as Fable 5 from Claude. Both are very good at these tasks.
And then GPT, that's the Chat GPT, right?
Correct. Yeah, correct. Yeah, so there's many other use cases. I guess another one for images, if people need to create infographics for advertisements or social media or anything like that. GPT Image 2 from OpenAI inside of ChatGPT is very good.
Yep.
Yeah, those are the ones that come to mind.
So, and that's another thing, just as we're pointing this out, still, we're at the very, very beginning of this journey. And the answers to these questions today are going to be different 6 months to a year from now. But what you want to do by getting into the tools now and beginning to find practical ways of using them is you want to get comfortable with the ecosystem so that as the changes occur, you're much more up to speed and able to flex and take advantage of those changes to have an impact in your business. So let's just touch on things like safety of information. I know that's a concern with a lot of people. And I know the answer is relatively simple, but give us the answer, Dylan. How do I know that my information that I put into these engines is safe and isn't being used either to train the models or is vulnerable to other people accessing private company information?
So if you're using any sort of paid plan with Gemini, ChatGPT, or Claude, specifically a business account, which most people will be using, you already get many security benefits. So there's many compliance of SOC 2 and different types of compliance regulations they have to be in compliance with when using those models. So that's the first thing. Is there a secure, similar to when you use Gmail or Outlook or Google Drive or OneDrive or Dropbox, the security levels are similar. So if you're willing to use those, you should be able to use this. The other thing around training your data, there's a simple setting inside of ChatGPT, inside of Claude, and in Gemini that all you have to do is turn the toggle off and say, don't train on my data. They word it differently, but it's all the same. You go into your settings, and then it's turned off for you and your entire company. So they no longer will train on your data going forward. Depending on the model you use and the product you use, they do keep the data for 15 to 30 days, and that's for compliance reasons on their side. But then it's deleted. And there are even some providers, depending on the plan you have, it'll be zero data retention. So they actually won't retain it for any period of time.
Is there anything you wouldn't put into the engine?
Me personally, probably not. But I think I'm on the extreme side.
Yeah.
I'm very kind of like AI forward, so AI can have everything. For most businesses, if there are specific, I suppose, pieces of information that you feel, actually, I mean, when it comes to access to certain data sets, there's very few data sets I can think of that I wouldn't share with an AI. The one thing I would mitigate would be the AI's ability to do things on my behalf, not data sets that it sees, but actions it can take.
Okay, give me an example of what you're talking about there.
So I wouldn't connect AI to my bank account and allow it to send money.
Right.
Because it could accidentally send money or too much to the wrong person. But I would allow it to read my bank account. So it can access my bank account and see things, but it can't send things. So there are certain actions that I would allow the AI to do and not do based on what it can see and what it can do.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, so if you're working with someone and they're at like day one of their AI use, and they want to lay a solid foundation for the journey that they're going to go on, what are 3 things that you would instruct them or advise them to do right away?
So first things first is don't get overwhelmed by all the choices. So don't get overwhelmed by Gemini and Claude and GPT and all that. Just choose whatever model is closest to you. So if you already have a subscription to Gemini, use that. If you already have a subscription to GPT, use that. Don't get overwhelmed by the choices. That's the first thing. Second thing is to make a list. Make a list of things that are time sucks in your day. So what are the things that are taking up most of your time? Note those down. And once you've noted those down, try to break them down into the steps. So if an example could be, I have to write a lot of follow-up emails for a certain type of meeting. What steps make up that task? So to write that follow-up email, what do you have to go first? Well, I have to get the transcript, and then I have to check the CRM, and then I have to check this other thing. I have to do these things, and then I write the email. So write those steps down for those tasks that you want to outsource to AI. That's the second thing. So find your time-intensive tasks, write them down, as well as the associated steps. And I suppose the third one, I'll keep this one simple, just use dictation.
Yeah.
Just start off, don't type, talk, and try to get used to that behavior. So it's hard at first. So the first maybe couple of days of dictating and talking to an AI feels weird. But after you've gotten past that, like that trough of weird feeling, you'll be extremely grateful for the fact that you no longer have to type and you can communicate more efficiently.
That's excellent. Excellent. Okay, Dylan, tell us a little bit more about yourself. I got to say, I'm tremendously envious of you because you have a very strong YouTube channel. And tell us about how people can get in touch with you and learn more about the work that you're doing.
Yeah. So, I mean, the main place you can find me is YouTube, as you mentioned. So I have a YouTube channel called Dylan Davis AI, and just type that in and you'll find it. You'll see my face or my name. In there, I make videos usually twice or three times a week. And the videos range between 10 and 15 minutes. They're kind of bite-sized videos to give you information on different types of tactics of how you can use AI. And I do all of that, reason being is because I have a consultancy. So I have an AI consultancy where I work with organizations, and I mainly do AI coaching. So it's either one-on-one or one-on with a collective of a team. And I help organizations upskill their employees so they can use AI more effectively to create leverage within the business.
Yeah, and Dylan and I have worked with a number of contractors, both general and subcontractors, specifically focusing on helping them with real-world applications of AI in their business. And so that's something that we are definitely available to do for you. If you ever have any questions about that, you can reach out to me. You can reach out to Dylan. We're happy to talk with you a little bit more. Let me just ask you this, Dylan. Where do you see AI in 5 years?
I don't even know where it's going to be in 6 months.
I know, but give us put on your pointy hat and tell us where we're going to be at.
Wow, 5 years is a long time.
I know, huh?
Honestly, I think in 5 years, most of knowledge work will be augmented or automated with AI.
Yeah.
And most people will have ambient AIs with them at all times that are doing tasks, that are working overnight for weeks at a time. I think we'll get closer to having more robots. So like humanoids walking around. So we'll have a lot of like Optimus robots doing stuff for us in our house. And yeah, I think 5 years is a really long time, and a lot of things can happen between now and then. But I think it'll be unrecognizable.
Yeah. I kind of have the same idea. I'm a little skeptical on how fast the robots are coming. I'm not skeptical at all about knowledge work being replaced in many ways. I'm not sure how long it's going to take the robots, because the robot stuff is difficult, like super difficult.
It is, but people don't realize that the robots benefit from the virtual AIs.
So that's what they're doing. What does that mean? Tell me what you mean by that.
So there's a cascading effect. So if I can successfully simulate a reality in a world, I can then take that simulation and put it into a real world AI's head, and it'll know exactly what to do. So this is, I mean, I'm not sure if you've seen recently, Google announced a model called Omni. So I think it was Omni 2 or Omni 3. And it's a AI that can create these virtual worlds. And the virtual world itself follows the physics of our world. So it looks just like everything that we would see. And they're doing that intentionally so they can then simulate more and more and more real worlds. And then what they'll do is they'll train physical world AIs, but they'll simulate a million situations simultaneously. And then they can take that and put it into a physical world AI. So I think the people will be surprised by how quickly physical AI catches up.
So with that in mind, whatever happens, as contractors, keep in mind that the data centers will still need to be built.
Exactly.
You might even want to start looking at nuclear power.
Yeah, or space satellites for space data centers.
Yeah. So buy some of that SpaceX stock that just came out, eh?
Yeah.
It's really interesting. I think one thing is for sure, we are in, to a great degree, uncharted territories, and the lay of the land will become more and more clear as time goes by. And there will be a tremendous amount of opportunity both to improve the efficiency of our businesses, improve our lives, but also there's going to be new business opportunities that come up as a result of that for construction companies.
As it always has.
Yeah, that's awesome. Dylan, thank you for joining me. This is part one of a series. We'll be back with some more deeper dives into using AI. And I really appreciate you taking the time today.
Thanks for having me, Eric.
All right, that's a wrap on part 1 of our AI in construction series. And this is what I want you to take away. AI isn't going to fix a badly run company, but if you're already running a good one, it can save you hours every week on the work that eats your time. RFIs, change order drafts, meeting summaries, helping you out with estimating, the stuff that shows up every single week. And you heard Dylan say it, the first answer you get isn't the finish, it's just the start. You iterate, you treat the AI like a new project engineer, smart, capable, but clueless about your business until you teach it. So a lot of folks aren't going to use and apply this, and I don't want you to be one of those. Start using the engines if you haven't already. And don't throw up your hands and call it hype when it doesn't quite work, but keep working with it because it is not going away. Dylan and I run the Construction Genius GPT course. It's where we teach construction professionals to use AI on real work, real emails, real RFIs, real change orders, not just theory, not shiny objects, the actual stuff on your desk this week. We run cohorts on an ongoing basis, and the next cohort is filling up fast. So I'd like you to get on the wait list if you're interested in getting some hands-on, practical, deep AI training from an expert in AI and an expert in construction. So to get on the wait list, go to the URL in the show notes or in the description of the video if you're watching us on YouTube, and put your name down and we'll be in touch for the next cohort. So start small, start this week, and we'll see you on part 2 of the series on AI. Thank you for listening to this episode of Construction Genius. Hope you found that 1% of inspiration to help you in the next few days. If you like the show, please give us a 5-star review on iTunes, share it with other construction leaders who you think would benefit, and always remember that the show is brought to you by Kick-Ass Meetings. I've been working with construction leaders since 2004, teaching them how to run extremely effective problem-solving meetings that gets their people collaborating, taps into their creativity, and to get yourself a free copy of the Kick-Ass Meeting Report, go to www.ericanderton.com/kickassmeetings. Grab yourself that free report, read it, use it in your business. You'll find it extremely useful. And thanks again for listening.